Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bible Basics and Beyond. I'm your host, Jaden Gomez, and I'm so glad that you've decided to join me for another brand new episode. And this episode is the fourth episode in my Let's Have a Chat series, and I spoke with my good friend, Charley Lin, and we discussed so many topics under the sun, God, suffering, government, and we really got a chance to learn and understand each other's perspectives, which was really good. So I hope you enjoy this episode and learn something from it. And this conversation was so deep and so interesting that I've had to split it into two parts. So this is part one, and I hope you'll be blessed by it. And I know I've been neglecting the quote of the week, but I'm back with it, and I felt it fit to honor the late Queen Elizabeth II, who has just passed. And she said, "We may hold different points of view, but it is in times of stress and difficulty that we most need to remember that we have much more in common than there is dividing us." Such a powerful quote, words of wisdom from such a powerful woman. Anyway, I hope you be blessed by this episode and learn something. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bible Basics and Beyond. I'm your host, Jaden Gomez, and I'm so glad that you've decided to join me for another brand new episode. And today we are going back to our Let's Have a Chat series. And today I have a good friend of mine, Charley Lin. He's a high school student from Melbourne. And welcome, Charley.
Yeah, hi Jane. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So, Charley, tell us a little bit about your background. What are you doing now? You're a student in high school in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, I am. Lived here all my life, known you since year seven, and I'm just studying.
That's all. That's what we're trying to do. That's all.
Yeah, that's all we're trying to do.
Yeah. So, did you grow up here in Melbourne or elsewhere?
Yeah, I was born here, I've went back to China a few times, but yeah, lived most of my life here.
Wow, that's great. So, I want to ask, what is your religious background? Do you believe in God? Do you follow a religion?
I don't, I guess I'm agnostic, as in I do believe in God, but I don't follow any religion, so I believe there is God, but not like a set religion, I guess you could say.
Hmm? So, why do you say that? Like, what kind of brought you uh, to that decision of like just believing that there's a God or a higher power, but not following a religion? Like, what
Like
sort of like brought you away from that religion sort of aspect?
as in, I always hope there's a God out there because there's got to be someone like in charge of all of this. Hopefully.
Hmm.
I'm not like big into religions because uh, I don't know. Is
You just hope that there's a higher power, I
Yeah, I
guess.
just hope there's
Because
like a
you
higher
don't
power, I
know,
guess.
yeah,
Yeah,
you just don't know what
yeah,
other religions are like, what are true, what is wrong. I mean,
yeah,
I totally get that because,
yeah,
there has to be some person running this place. There has to be someone uh who created all this. It can't have just happened in an instance as an accident, as
yeah.
some
I
people
know.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I guess my next question for you, I mean, however you want to answer this, um, what to you sort of gives you that hope that there's an existence of a God or of a higher power, you know?
I mean, like like you just said, I mean, there has to be someone in charge of all of this. And like the God damn, that's a tough question.
Yeah, it's a tough question for all of us. I mean, even I have
Yeah,
some time struggling to answer that at some points.
I just, God damn it, can we go back to that one?
Yeah,
Can we
yeah,
go?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no problem. Just have a think about it.
yeah,
But I guess I'll give you mine. I think
Hmm.
for me, the clearest evidence of a God is two things for me. Actually, three. The top three of everything that Christians say. One is that there's a fine tuning of this universe. So, if you look at science and everything, if something was just off, if the Earth was just out of orbit from the sun, or just a few numbers away, Earth would be inhabitable. We wouldn't be able
Yep.
to live. We wouldn't be able to survive. So there's somebody who just went and did every little bit of math and scientific, like looking at what's going to happen so that he can put humans on this earth. Now, my other one would be the moral argument. We all believe what is right and what is wrong. We all have
Hmm.
a set compass of, okay, we know that this is good and we know that this is bad. Some people combat that saying, what about Adolf Hitler? What he did was bad. But what then they'll say, okay, well, what's good for somebody is bad for somebody else. The thing is, in anyone who's been bad, they may have thought they're doing good. But my response to that is there's a moral law inside of every one of us, meaning that even though you think you're doing something right, there's a little inch of you that knows that it's wrong. You know what I mean? That compass is pointing you in another direction.
And there's like religion, like set is religion that compass? Does like
I
religion
don't
provide
think
the guidelines?
so. As I've spoken about in like episodes of like what is Christianity, I don't like to think of Christianity as a religion. Like some religions believe, okay, this is right, this is wrong. You have to follow these traditions if you're a good person, sort of thing. But in Christianity, what I believe is that Christianity is a relationship with God. It is a intimate, close relationship with God where you talk to him and he talks to you, where he guides you in everything that you do. It's more of that than you following traditions. You going to, for example, if you think of Catholicism, you go to a confession box and you confess your sins. In Christianity, when you have done something wrong, you've done something wrong, you don't need to go to a pastor or a priest. Yes, it's good to, talk about what you've done wrong with somebody else. But when you've done something wrong, you go to God. It's like if you hurt somebody you love, you're not going to go to a third party and ask them, okay, can you please ask them to forgive me? You're going to go straight to them and ask them, oh, can I please have your forgiveness? I'm so sorry. That's the sort of same thing, that relationship where you just go to God um, because he's there for you. So in this case, he's a father, he's a helping hand who guides you. Does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, I guess it does, but I'm gonna have to like disagree with you uh on what you said about like Christianity like being would you say like a moral
A
like
relationship.
a relationship with God as in like I don't believe that God should intervene sometimes like yeah God hopefully did create our current environment but like I don't think he should intervene.
Well, let's get into that. I mean, I think when we look at that, we got to understand what when God made humans, like what did he give us? Okay, God doesn't intervene. God can only persuade. I don't want to say persuade. He can only like sort of guide us. Okay, if you believe in Christianity or like that sort of thing, you believe God as a guiding father. As a father plays with his child, grows them up, nurtures them. That's like sort of God, um, for me. But at the same time, you can make your own decisions. We go back to that idea of free will, which we can get into like all the other things later. But
Yeah.
God decided to give humans free will. And I've talked about this a lot. Because God didn't want robots. If God wanted robots, he would have made them without free will, obey his every word. Without free will, you cannot choose to feel, you cannot choose to love, you cannot choose to do what's good for, like, what's right to you. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, for example, free will, I can say, okay, I want to kill somebody. Let's just use that really
Yeah.
extreme scenario. I want to kill someone. Okay, I know that it's wrong. Okay, and then obviously, as a Christian or anyone really, there'll be an inkling of you that says that it's not right. Okay, and then God will tell you, okay, this is not right. What are you doing? This is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to love your neighbor as yourself, love your enemies. But at the end of the day, Charlie, you are the one who makes the final decision. God can give you advice, but he's not going to control you. Like I said, if he wanted to control you, you'd have to be a robot. You know?
Yeah,
That's
my one
that's
question
yeah.
there is just like, how can God give you advice if, like, he can't interact with anything or if he can't intervene?
No, he can interact. It
Like,
doesn't mean that he's going to like stop, like put an obstacle in your way. Like obviously that's a sign. That is a sign that God doesn't want you to do it.
yeah,
But that doesn't mean he's going to like stop you from doing it. Because at the end of the day, like I said, it's your choice. Like he can still give you advice. Like I can give you advice on something. You can choose to take it or not. You know? Same goes for God. God can tell you, okay, don't buy this, don't get this. Oh, don't see this person. Oh, don't be with this people. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. If you want to buy that, buy it. If you want to hang around this person, do that. Is the advice that when it's given, you have a choice to follow it or not? You know?
uh, yeah, I'm just still a bit confused. Can you like give an example of like what this advice could look like?
Okay. So I believe that God comes down to the very smallest thing. But let's start with if you have, for example, a job opportunity, let's say that, okay?
Hmm.
You have a job opportunity to work in a place. It looks really great, you're really happy with it, but there's a shortfall. Let's say example, they don't care for the environment. Let's say that. They're not eco-friendly or green or whatever.
Yeah.
Then something in you either says, I don't want to work in this. It goes against what I believe. Or something else. You see something on television, for example, or on the news saying, oh, uh, forests are being cut down in terms of building these buildings. And then you remember, oh, this job that I'm looking for does this. It breaks down forests to build roads, to build buildings, and all these sort of things. It doesn't come by accident. I don't believe they come by accident. A lot of people do, but I don't believe it. Like, if it happens one after the other, after the other, after the other, it's a sign. It's a sign that God's giving you advice, a word. You may go ahead and read whatever text, for example, the Bible, and then suddenly you see something about the environment. You'll be like, okay, I got to take care of it. So then, at the end of the day, after all that, you can either follow what God says, follow that advice, and say, okay, I'm not going to take this job. Um, there'll be new ones in the future, and go that way. Or you can say, you know what, I don't really care. I need the money. You can go that way. But either way you go, at the end of the day, it's your choice. You may go on this sort of you may choose the job opportunity, but that doesn't mean God's not going to give you advice in the future. Okay. But the most important thing is that you listen, at least listen, take into account. And if it's God and you believe in God, follow him, because you know that when you follow him, he will reward you 10 times more than what the other opportunity would have given you. So do you sort of understand that? Have I painted like the correct picture?
Yeah, I see I see like what you believe, but I guess I can't really go along with that because
Okay, why do you say that?
I say that because like it it can't be all on purpose. It's like it can't be all of God's doing. It has to be like some kind of accident or like coincidence. Because like how many Christians are there and how many people believe in God? Like it's millions and billions of people. How can God tailor, you know, actions and goddamn, I forgot a word, and events to play out to suit one person while there are millions of other people? What happens if one person, like going back to that environmental thing, what happens if one person, like for example, in that job opportunity, see the job opportunity with like the company that goes against the environment? What happens if, say, like crap, never mind, it's fine, don't worry.
No, no. I
No,
mean,
no,
I
no.
understand what you mean, but when we're looking at that, I really want to answer that because I see where you're coming from. We cannot think of God as human. That's the most important thing. He is a divine being, and being a divine being, he is omnipotent, meaning that he is over everything. He knows anything and everything. That's the best thing about God. And that's what I love about it, because he can look over the billions of people in this world and yet still focus on you. So we got to remember, don't put God in a box. Okay. We cannot be putting him into a small box, confining him to this thing where, okay, he can only attend to 10 people a day. God can attend to billions, and he does millions of people a day. Not even a day for him. Like, it just keeps on going and going and going, you know? So the main thing is that we got to remember that God is omnipotent, that he is everywhere and for everyone, and always making sure that every little inch is correct, making sure that, you get the right things that you need. So we can't put him in a box and say, how can he focus on these thousands of people? But, you know, we have to look at it at the bigger picture. As a divine being, he is omnipotent, he is all knowing, he's almighty, he's all powerful. So that's my view on it. Does that sort of make sense on why I believe that?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we've kind of got some questions that we've both agreed on. So let's get into those. We wanted to discuss a few of these questions. So we're gonna play pass the ball. So I'm gonna go. You're gonna go first. Then I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna answer, and then you'll give your opinion, and then we'll go back and forth with the questions.
Yes.
Is that cool?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so why don't you begin?
Yeah. In a world where people are so emotional about topics and in an era of cancel culture, why is civil discussion so rare?
I think this question is really good because um, the most important thing about civil discussion is that everyone listens. In a world right now, we have people who stereotype people. We have people who say, okay, this is this, this is that. So when somebody brings a new idea to the table, or their idea to the table that is contradicting the other person, they're not going to want to listen to it because they, okay, this is my view. And that's like sort of that's what makes people emotional. That's what sort of fuels cancel culture. If you don't believe what I'm thinking, you're wrong. That sort of thing. Civil discussion is all about learning and understanding the other person, not necessarily agreeing with them, but trying to understand why they believe it, trying to understand that, okay, he or she believes this. Okay, I understand why they believe it, but you can still disagree with them. It doesn't mean that you can't listen to them. It doesn't mean you can't learn anything from them. For example, some people have the stereotype that Christians are homophobic, that Muslims are terrorists, that sort of thing. Um, and then they completely close their mind off. When somebody tries to present a different idea, they close it off because it's contrary to what they believe. The most important thing is listening. That's what that's why civil discussion is impacted by cancel culture and people who are emotional. Not that it's bad, like people who are emotional is a bad thing. Like, you should always be passionate about your topic, but you need to learn where to separate emotions and obviously learning. You're not going to get upset with a teacher for teaching you maths or teaching you algebra. You're still going to learn it. Okay. So that's what you need to do. You need to listen, you need to learn, but you don't have to agree with them. I can listen uh, and and understand and learn from why an atheist believes what they believe. But I can say, okay, I don't agree with that. I agree with some portions of that, but I don't agree with all of it. I can say, okay, this is my point of view. Civil discussion is when both people are willing to learn and wanting to discuss something like this or like any other discussion that I do. It's all about wanting to learn from each other and being able to say, I disagree because of this is this. Not I disagree with you, you are wrong. That's like canceling them because they didn't do anything wrong. They're just saying their opinion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
What do you think? So in this world, is civil discussion impacted by these sort of topics?
Yeah, I guess because like when someone says something that you disagree with, you usually get like angry or emotional, like you said.
Yeah,
And when you get angry, emotional, it's really hard to control your anger and stay civil and calm and have a like reasonable conversation with someone. So
for
yeah,
sure.
in that aspect, I guess I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Okay, so I'll ask the questions. Do you think that there are things in society we can and can't speak about?
Uh, yes and no. As in, like, there are some things that you definitely can't go anywhere near. without like sounding crazy or like being just straight offensive. But I feel like in general, yeah, you should be able to talk about a, a wide variety of topics, you know, because that's what true freedom is, you know, and you should be able to discuss it and be like, oh, are you sure that's like the best
Mm,
decision? And you have to like present all opinions and viewpoints to be able to establish the real picture and make sure that what you're doing is the right thing.
for sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think like in society, we're so like hell bent on trying not to, uh, we don't want to offend people, but we're so, I don't know what the word for it is. Like, we are stepping on, s- what's
Eggshells?
stepping, yeah, stepping on eggshells. You're
Yeah.
so scared because everyone's so emotional, but
Well, yeah, because
you,
everything's like political now.
yeah, but you have to understand that once in a while you're going to discuss something. You can't be offended by everything that happens in the world,
Yeah.
you know? So I agree that, there are things we can speak about. I think that there are things we're going to be careful when we speak about. I don't think it should be limited by how people feel. I think it's just like being careful about how we speak. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
cool.
So do you think humans should be able to like mess with nature, as in like disturb natural order of things?
When you say natural orders, what do you mean?
As in
Like,
like, okay, for example, like a species is going extinct through like
yeah,
this natural extinction. Do you think that humans should intervene and save that species from like an otherwise 100% natural, decline in population?
I think my first question would be like, why? Why is that happening? Why is this species going extinct? Would it like, is it because of something humans did? Is it because something that, messed with the environment? Is it something of our own wrongdoing that we need to fix? That's my first question. If it is, sometimes you need to try and save it. Sometimes just leave it, because if that's happening, there must be a reason for it. Okay. Then we go into the whole thing where I believe that everything happens for a reason. Okay. A lot of people don't, but I do. It sort of gives me hope that I believe that everything happens for a reason. But if it is a consequence of something that humans are doing wrong, then do whatever you can to save it. But don't go ahead and then uh, like really go against something that seems to be inevitable. You know?
Yeah.
What do you think?
As in like, no, can I just ask you another question?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if what happens if it's just a completely natural like decline in population, like it's got nothing to do with humans, like in the extremely rare chance that that happens.
And I say I have two options. You can either try and save it or just don't mess with it. Everyone has those two choices. I know this is like kind of confusing, but like, I don't think that it's one or the other. Because for example, if God has a plan for it to go, if the species needs to go extinct, let's just say
Yeah.
that is part of the plan, then whatever you do is still going to fail. But if you are supposed to do something and it succeeds, then you know that that was the right decision. Either way, what I believe is that God is in control of everything. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not now we can go into like the sort of idea of freedom, but still, there's still a plan. There's still like these laws, the law of aerodynamics.
Yeah.
What goes up must come down, that sort of thing, or
Mm-hmm.
like flying. Oh, sorry, that's gravity, law of gravity.
Yeah.
What goes up must come down. That doesn't mean we can change how that is, and that doesn't mean that God's you know intervening that, because he's put laws in place that require us to follow natural laws, laws of gravity, law of aerodynamics. you know
Yeah.
those laws are in place, and if you go against them, well, you get the consequences. You jump out a window and you think you can fly. Are you going to fly? You're going to fall down and break your head.
Well, yeah.
So that sort of thing. I'm not saying that like we don't have freedom. I'm just saying that there is a plan. There are laws that are in place, and there are things that if you do it, you're going to reap whatever comes out of it,
Yeah.
Cool. So what did you think? What do you think? Should humans be able to mess with nature? Should they be able to intervene, for example, in that scenario that you gave?
Well, I don't think humans should intervene, like, because if like a species is declining through disease or completely natural events, I don't think we should, because
Mm-hmm.
like going back to what you said with God, we can like try and protect them, but we shouldn't like directly, you know, um, cause change, I guess
Mm-hmm.
you could say.
Yeah. Yep. I see that. I see that. I agree. I can agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, cool. I'll go to my next question. What to you now is true freedom? So we've just talked about should humans be able to answer the nature, your civil discussion. What for you is true freedom?
Uh, I guess true freedom is, well, it's probably unobtainable because you're always guided by some moral code. And like you said, there are laws of gravity, aerodynamics, and stuff like that. You can't fly, you can't do whatever you want because there's always repercussions for your actions.
Okay, cool. I see
Yeah.
that.
What do you
I
think?
think I think we have freedom. I think we do have freedom. So you see, though we have these laws in place, okay? Now these laws are set in place since the beginning of time. Okay.
Yep.
And what I can say is, this is my opinion, it's just that you can still go against it. If somebody wanted to test out if they can fly, and go against the law
Yeah.
of gravity, go for it, whatever. But you know what's gonna happen. That there's still freedom to make that choice, whether to go against that law or not. You know, you still have freedom. You have freedom to make choices. You have freedom to make good and right choices. Like I told you at the beginning, what's good for somebody else may be bad for someone else. But like I said, everyone has a moral compass in them. Everyone has, okay, this is wrong, but I'm still going to do it. At the end of the day, they may go against that feeling. So I believe that we do have true freedom. What we do have is human limitation, through the form of government sometimes. Like, I'm not saying that
Yep.
government is bad. I think government is like, there needs to be a control in society. There needs to be laws in place so that, wars don't break out or murders don't happen or vigilantism doesn't happen.
Hmm.
But a lot of the time, when I say human limitation, I mean like they're limiting you of certain things that are given, you know?
Yeah.
So they're not telling you, they're telling you that if you kill someone, you're going to go to prison. I mean, that's correct. What? You have to reap the consequences. You've done something wrong. Society deems it wrong. Therefore, you go to prison. But sometimes what society deems wrong itself is wrong.
Hmm.
You know what? Thank you for tuning in this week. I hope you learned something and were blessed by the discussion that me and Charlie were having. I believe that now more than ever, it is so important that we have these discussions, these civil discussions, and we learn from each other, because we live in a society that is so hell-bent on canceling people, arguing with people, that we forget that learning from others is also being able to look at their point of view, look at an opinion from their point of view. And I believe that is what I do on the Let's Have a Chat series. I share an opinion and the other person shares an opinion, and that is so important in our society. So I hope you learned something from it and were blessed, and through this encouraged to have civil discussions with the people around you. Don't forget to like, go comment and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to receive more thought-provoking episodes. And don't forget to join us next week for part 2 of our Let's Have a Chat with Charlie Lin. As I always say, have an amazing week, and remember, God loves you. Stay safe and be blessed.